Welcome to our deep dive into the enigmatic and haunting world of The Fall of the House of Usher limited series. This cinematic journey, adapted from Edgar Allan Poe's classic tale, takes us into the heart of a story rich in gothic elements, psychological intrigue, and an atmosphere of creeping dread. Join us as we dissect each episode, delving into the symbolism, character development, and masterful storytelling that bring this chilling narrative to life. Whether you're a Poe aficionado or new to his macabre universe, the series, which is not merely based on Poe's short story of the same name, follows the Usher family, who have amassed wealth. Thanks to their highly addictive opiates, the Ushers in 2023 are on the same path to death as the unfortunate family and Poe's original story. The Fall of the House of Usher is a hugely enjoyable viewing with 8 episodes packed with the dismal and horrific. What is the series about the devastating effects of opioids still looms large over American society in 2023 and The Fall of the House of Usher. The majority of Rotor Usher's confession is about his Roderick and Madeline backstory past, when he and his twin sister Malene founded their prose heiress firm. The sequence of events from the twins' history play a significant role in later occurrences. Even though The Fall of the House of Usher only unveils the complete storyline at the very end. The identical twins were reared by their single mother Eliza from an early age and were fatherless. William Longfellow, the former CEO of Ferrado Pharmaceuticals, was the man Eliza worked for as his personal assistant. Longfellow was also the twins' biological father, but the man never acknowledged the children as his own, and was extremely demeaning towards Eliza, to keeping their ties a secret from the entire world even during Eliza's tooth sickness. When the woman had developed Tisla, Longfellow refused to provide any sort of help to her family Roderick murdered herself with a fireplace poker. Frederick, the oldest son and only surviving Usher sibling, overdoses and dies after accidentally snorting a large amount of paralytic instead of cocaine. The youngest heir, Frederick's adolescent daughter Lenore, passes away mysteriously and without any cause, but unlike the previous heirs, she passes away quite painlessly. As a result, the Ushers have no living heirs. The woman is eventually revealed to be named Verna, and although each of the deaths can be attributed to psychological or physical reasons, photographic evidence of Verna ensures that the supernatural has been involved in each case. The real story of her dates back to 1980, when Roderick and Malene Usher committed the murder of their boss Griswold. After the act, the siblings had gone to a nearby bar to establish alias for themselves, and here they had met with the charming bartender Verna. Gradually, over the night, the woman magically revealed everything about the Ushers and then offered them a deal. According to her, the Usher twins could easily avoid any police and legal trouble because of their murder, and would very quickly rise to extreme heights of success and wealth. But in return, they had to agree to the condition that all of their heirs would die at the same time that the twins would die with them. In essence, Verna represents the devil, and the Ushers had struck a tradition bargain with the devil, which brought them great prosperity but at a horrible price. Since the poop didn't even exist in real life, the siblings had even thought of this encounter as a helicogenic dream before speaking to anybody about it. The House of Usher was doomed to fail because they valued material wealth and personal success more than a legacy or heirs. All of Roderick's children had died before his fall, when he was unwell and on the verge of death. What happens to Roderick and Malene Usher in the end, after this elaborate confession to Auguste Dupin? Roderick also talks about the very recent developments. Although stating that his granddaughter Lenore had been texting him throughout the night, the man now reveals that Lenore is actually dead, and it is instead an AI replicant that had been texting him with the single word, "nevermore," a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven. It was young Leno's death that moved Roderick the most, presumably, because she was innocent unlike the other children. A few days earlier, Malene convinced Roderick to kill himself by telling him that his death would end the suffering of the family, and Rotor had taken multiple pills as well. It was not too strange that the cold-hearted Malene tried to keep all the wealth for herself, but Verna disallowed such an ending for the family as the Maleficent devil. She wanted both the siblings to suffer together, for they had agreed to the horrific deal. Together instead, Roddick called Malene on this particular night, a few hours before Dupin was brought over, and then, exactly like they had done to Grisal, before he poisoned her with cyanide by this point. Roderick was sure make sure the same thing happened to his sister, whether out of jealousy or just to spare her any suffering. Since the devil would kill her as well, without noticing that Malene was still alive, the man replaced her eyes with 2 large sapphires in order to commemorate his sister, like an Egyptian pharaoh towards the end of Roderick's confession to Dupin right before the attorney's eyes, a horrific figure of Malene with sapphires instead of eyes, clambers out of the basement and chokes her brother to death. At this same time, the entire Usher house starts crumbling and falling, and as Dupin runs out, the building completely collapses on top of Roderick and Malene, marking a literal and symbolic fall of the House of Usher. Auguste Dupin visits the family graveyard in the fall of the House of Usher's conclusion and leaves the confession video there because the lawyer has since retired and does not want to pursue the case any further. Dupin had come to the conclusion that the greatest wealth one could hope for is the blessing of family and a legacy as a result of this entire case and Roderick's confession. Dupin now wants to mission and will return to his family, a happy man. After Dupin had lastly turned away from the Ushers, Verna reappears to decorate their graves with the pertinent needs. The claims of having no side effects and creating no addiction were already stated. At this time, Grisal turned down Roderick's plan, saying that it was not of much value, but then proceeded to buy off the manufacturers of the drug, and in turn, the ligot and drug itself. The CEO had realized the monetary gains that could be made with the pills, but he did not want to give Roderick any financial credit for it. The Usher siblings took note of this and patiently waited for their turn to strike as soon as the liot and drug hit the markets. Dead bodies started to crop up because of its effects, and a young police officer, Auguste Dupin, started to investigate the matter. It was the very same Auguste Dupin who found out about the terrible malpractices of Rufus Griswold and his company. The real side effects of the drug were being hidden from the public. Human trials were being conducted without disclosing full information about the real effects, and documents and consent forms were being forged to test any and every patient they could get. And Malene buried their mother's body mistakenly before she had even died. And in a strange moment, Eliza climbed out of her grave, walked up to her boss's house, and strangled William Longfellow to death, before herself falling dead, following the death of their only guardian. Roderick and Malene had to go from one foster home to another, and they were mostly deprived of any good or healthy childhood. After growing up, both looked for work at Forado, with Roderick interested in drugs and medicine, and Malene more passionate about technology and computers. But the CEO of the company at the time, Rufus Grisal, refused to take them. With any seriousness, Rod first approached Grisal with a new product he had found on the market, a newly made opioid named Ligon Roddick. Wanted to bridge the gap between light-dose painkillers and heavy opioids with these new Liadan tablets, as they could be prescribed to any patient in varying doses depending on their pharma company, despite being claimed to have no side effects or addictive quality. The medicine is heavily addictive, often mixed up with other compounds to create dangerous street drugs, and is almost impossible to break a habit from. After years of trying to pin the Usher family for their criminal acts, Dupin finally heads a lawsuit against Roderick and Malene, but their influence still seems capable of saving them. However, a string of mysterious happenings starts to occur when the 2 youngest wards of Roderick die in unbelievably freakish accidents within just 2 weeks. All of the children and heirs to the family die in similarly weird ways, and Roder Usher also seems to be suffering from some ailment around this very time. Auguste Dupin receives an invitation to meet and talk with Roderick Usher, with the promise that the man will confess his crimes to the attorney, still with a doubting mind. August reaches the mentioned address, which is an extremely old, crumbling house in the middle of a deserted street, where Roderick is indeed waiting for him. The once powerful, but now dejected, Roderick reveals that this is his childhood home before talking about his life in detail, seemingly shocked and grieved by the deaths of his 6 children, 4 of whom were illegitimate ones, and also expecting his own death. Soon the man wants to confess all his wrongdoings, while also explaining the real reason behind his children's deaths, as August Dupin sits to hear and record the testimony of Usher deep and disturbing family secrets come out, all while the strong patriarch experiences a series of related hallucinations owing to his catal disorder. How had Roderick and Malene built their family business? Pins all the blame on the renowned and respected Usher family, headed by twin siblings Roderick and Malene. Usher the family and their pharmaceutical company named Forado have amassed unimaginable financial and social wealth. But according to the findings of Assistant U.S. Attorney August Dupin, this wealth has been generated out of the sheer misery, torture, and death of thousands of common people who have grown addicted to the lyot and painkiller produced by the Forado. Mementos that contributed to their demise. She lays a whiskey glass on Roderick's grave because he had made a bargain with Verna and signed his own death certificate with this glass. Verna had set out on this voyage to show Roderick and Malene Usher the destructive power of greed and ambition, but the harm the Ushers had inflicted had left a shadow of melancholy on her face. Would it have been better if she had slain the twins that fateful night in her make-believe bar? Would it have prevented the world from enduring so much pain? We are unsure what we do. Know is that without individuals and families like the Ushers who advertise that they can lessen our suffering but actually increase it while profiting from our suffering, humanity would be better off. As we conclude our journey through the dark and twisting corridors of The Fall of the House of Usher limited series, we are left to ponder the haunting themes that Edgar Allan Poe so masterfully wove into his narrative. This series, a vivid reimagining of Poe's classic tale, has not only brought to life the gothic ambience and psychological depth of the original story, but has also expanded upon it, adding new layers and perspectives. Throughout the series, we witness the gradual disintegration of both the Usher family and their ancestral home, a powerful metaphor for the inescapable decay of body, mind, and legacy. The eerie atmosphere, coupled with the unraveling mystery, served as a mirror to our own fears and anxieties about mortality, madness, and the unknown.